Internal Revenue Service IRS Tax News. September is National Preparedness Month. IRS urges taxpayers to prepare for natural disasters. IR 2021-174, August 30th, 2021, Washington. September is National Preparedness Month. With the height of hurricane season fast approaching and the ongoing threat of wildfires in some parts of the country, the Internal Revenue Service reminds everyone to develop an emergency preparedness plan. All taxpayers, from individuals to organizations and businesses, should take time now to create or update their emergency plans. Taxpayers can begin getting ready for a disaster with a preparedness plan that includes securing and duplicating essential tax and financial documents, creating lists of property, and knowing where to find information once a disaster has occurred. Securing this information can help in the aftermath of a disaster, and it can help people more quickly take advantage of disaster relief available from the IRS, the Internal Revenue Service. So start secure. Taxpayers should keep critical original documents inside waterproof containers in a secure space. So if you have those types of documents that you can't basically recreate very easily, then you want to make sure that you have that documentation, if you're in a flood zone in particular, in a secure place and in a waterproof place, ideally. So documents such as tax returns, birth certificates, deeds, titles, and insurance policies should also be duplicated and kept with a trusted person outside the area a natural disaster may affect. So it'd be nice if you could take that secure documentation or to get copies of this type of documentation. And then if they're wiped out in a flood, you have them in some other location where they could basically be outside, hopefully the flood zone, and then you could recoup that documentation in that way. Now, also, if you are able to get digital copies of the documentation, if that would be something useful, then in the event of recovering, then you might want to get the digital copies and be saving them possibly online or in some kind of hard drive, but then having them saved outside of the home again, because if the computer was in the flood and you had it saved on the computer, that's not going to be very helpful. But if it was saved on the cloud or it's saved on an external drive that was then saved somewhere outside the flood zone, then once again, or whatever disasters there, fire or whatever, then that could be another way to safeguard those types of documents. So make copies, and original documents are available only on paper. So if original documents are available only on paper, taxpayers can use a scanner and save them on a USB flash drive, CD, or cloud, which provides security and easy portability. So if you can scan those types of documents, that would be great. If you don't have another copy of them, the digital copy would be better than nothing. And you may be able to use a phone these days. They have scanner apps to get a nice scan of them rather than just a picture of them. You should be able to get a scan app and then be able to save it somewhere and then put it somewhere secure, possibly in cloud storage, some kind of secure cloud storage possibly. So document valuables. After a disaster hits, photographs and videos of a home or business's contents can help support claims for insurance or tax benefits. All property, especially expensive high-value items, should be recorded. So clearly, if there is a natural disaster that hits and you want to then get the insurance claims on it and or use this for tax benefits, because you might be able to claim some loss on a tax benefit if it's a declared disaster area, and then the insurance company or the IRS asks for proof, then you want to be able to verify that proof with the video and the pictures of the items that you have. And obviously you want to list off those items in detail so that you could basically value them and so on in the event that there is a problem. Because you might remember, I have this kind of TV, but I can't remember exactly what the brand was or when I bought the thing or whatnot. So it'd be nice to list those things out and then have the backup of the photos and videos to support the event of an audit, to double check that is indeed the case in the event that you claim them on insurance or tax returns. So the IRS disaster loss workbooks can help individuals and businesses compile lists of belongings or business equipment. There's links to those items here. Employer fiduciary bonds. Employers using payroll service providers should check if their provider has a fiduciary bond in place to protect the employer in the event of a default by provider. Employers are encouraged to create an electronic federal tax payment system account at EFTPS.gov. There's a link to that here to monitor their payroll tax deposits and receive email alerts. Know where to go. Reconstructing records after a disaster may be required for tax purposes, getting financial assistance or insurance reimbursement. Find out if financial institutions provide statements and documents electronically. So obviously, if you're reconstructing after the event, then you might, you got your documents wiped out. Obviously, many of those documents you might be able to retrieve, especially these days, since more and more of them are electronic, such as electronic banking and so on. You might be able to get your statements from like the bank, and you might be able to get your tax information like 1099s, W-2s from your employers and financial institutions and so on. So that would be the first place to go. More and more information is available digitally. More and more financial institutions are having that availability more accessible to get it online and so on and so forth. Now, if you can't get it online, then you might go to the IRS website and see if you could pick it up there. Remember that when you're talking about tax information, you're talking about income tax. So documentation of your income is fairly well documented because the IRS is trying to make sure that it is, for the most part, for many components of it, by pressuring the payer to give them the documentation as well as you. So in other words, 1099s, W-2s, and so on have been given also to the IRS. So if you cannot get them from the financial institution, or if you're no longer working at the place that you need the documents for, then you might be able to go to the IRS website directly and see if you can pick up some of the information that was given to them, for especially for like prior year type of documentation for income, 1099s, W-2s, and so on. So you can take a look at that. Also, just in the event that you haven't filed for a couple years and you think it might be worthwhile to do so, and you don't have the documentation, you might say, I don't work at the same place anymore, I don't want to talk to them or something like that, or I don't have any, I don't work at the same bank anymore, I don't have any information, or the company closed. Then again, you might be able to go to the IRS website and pick up enough information to file the tax return, because they should have it in essence in their system as well. So back to the text. Taxpayers who have lost some or all of their records during the disaster should visit Irs Reconstructing Records website. There's a link to that Reconstructing Records website here. IRS is ready to help. Taxpayers living in federally declared disaster can visit the IRS Tax Relief in Disaster Situations webpage. There's a link to that webpage here, or Around the Nation on irs.gov. There's a link to Around the Nation as well. And check for the available disaster tax relief. The IRS automatically identifies taxpayers located in covered disaster areas and applies filing and payment relief. So remember, you may get some relief and whatnot, tax relief. The IRS will typically kind of list out the nationally declared areas, which are the areas where you may get the most kind of tax relief within. So if you're in that area, then they should be able to kind of apply you and see that you're in that area. If you're around that area and you've been affected by it, like your business records are in it or something like that, even though you live outside of it, then you might have to take some action and whatnot. So you can contact these websites and look into it in more detail in that event. So affected taxpayers can call 866-562-5227. There'll be a link to this in the description, so you can look up that number later. To speak with an IRS specialist trained to handle disaster-related issues. A taxpayer impacted by a disaster outside a federally declared disaster area may qualify for disaster relief. This includes taxpayers who are not physically located in a disaster area, but whose records necessary to meet a filing or payment deadline postponed during the relief period or located in a covered disaster area. For more information about the National Preparedness Month, visit ready.gov/September. There's a link to that here. There's also a lot of reading material, other links that you can look at, including Publication 2194, Disaster Resource Guide for Individuals and Businesses, Publication 5307, Tax Reform, Basics for Individuals and Families, Publication 583, Starting a Business and Keeping Records, Publication 547, Casualties, Disaster, and Theft, Reconstructing Records After a Natural Disaster or Casualty Loss, Federal Emergency Management Agency, Small Business Administration, DisasterAssistance.gov, and Ready.gov. There's links to all that wonderful reading material here, which should keep you busy for some time if you want to look at it. And there'll be a link to this in the description.